I mean, do you feel like you have to address that in some way? That part of the humor is you're going to make fun of yourself as an Asian American?
Well, I think making fun of yourself is funny, period. And everything I do and say, it's because I'm an Asian woman, and it's from my perspective being an Asian woman. So, I mean, everything I talk about is from that perspective. However, I don't sit there going, oh, because I'm Korean, I do this. But if it's people that don't know me, of course I'll tell them, hey, I'm Korean and I grew up in America, and then we can move on. And because all my jokes are internet and dating and stuff, but from the perspective of an Asian American female and the white perverts. So I always say. But I really don't make a point of going on and on about being Asian, and I hardly ever do Asian jokes. Only if there's Asians in the audience will I do it. Because if there's no Asians in the audience and I make fun of Asians, then other people won't laugh because they're like, what is she making fun of her? But if there's all the Asians laughing with me, then everyone will go, oh, okay, I can laugh too. So you always have to be able to see your audience when you do stand-up. And you can't have the same act every night. That's what I always tell comics, because audience is different. You got to change your jokes. You got to relate to the audience, and it's not an actress. You don't memorize lines. You got to be able to switch, because it's always a dialogue in comedy. Even though they don't talk, it's still a dialogue.
So do you...
I touch upon a lot of social issues in my comedy, and I do talk about being Indian, and I find it, like Tina said, it's easier if I make fun of Indians versus somebody who's not Indian who makes fun of Indians, because then it becomes a little derogatory and offensive, depending on how smartly people do it or unsmartly they do it. But if I say it, it's like, that's another Indian guy talking funny things about Indian people, we can laugh. At the same time, there are some jokes which I feel very strongly about. I'm making a point, I'm making a statement, and I can make that point and I can make that statement every night in every show. So I do have some of my staple jokes that I love to do, because it's not what I like to call, I don't write hacky or jokey jokes. It's not like, hey, look, I'm so funny and I'm so smart that I can make fun of something. But it's more of a thoughtful process behind the point that I'm trying to make in a funny way. And I want as many people in the world to understand the point that I'm making, so that it can hopefully open up their eyes and their minds to accept things and kind of be more open-minded about things and not be so narrowed down and rigid and stubborn and old school. So I don't change my act completely on the fly, but like every comedian needs to, if the audience is not responding, you kind of fish with them. You give them your first joke, see how they react. Based on their reaction, your second joke comes out. And it's not a hard part that we'll take going from 1 to 10. We'll alter our things around, but there are a few points I always try to make in my act, and I'll find ways to do it either directly or beating around the bush, but still making it.
So, Mom is very passive-aggressive. She was like, so how's that comedy thing going, huh? Huh? You didn't do anything else with your day? I don't know. But when I first started, I did a lot of open mics and cafes, and my mom picked me up after, like, these comedy shows would go on. These open mics would be like 40 comedians, and after the show was over, it would be like 2 o'clock in the morning, and my mom would pick me up from these cafes. And I mean, that's her way of showing support for me, but really she doesn't want me to do this. But whatever, so she can't do it. I went to school, so I did it. When she does support me, though, like in her own way. When I was 16, I tried to get into the club in San Francisco, which was the San Francisco Punchline, but the people there wouldn't let me because I was underage, and the only way I could get in was if I had an adult with me. And so I would beg my mom to drive me to the comedy club, and that's what she did. And so every Sunday I would be there with my mom laughing at these terrible, horrible, nasty jokes that comedians would say. So, and she'd be into them too, and that was the gross part. She'd be into them.